Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. It's me, Ryan. I'm going to be talking about some more movies because I have some catching up to do, motherfuckers. There's a chance that you saw that I covered the Final Destination franchise, the Mission Impossible franchise, Jurassic Park/World, and maybe another one. This is me catching up on the new movies that came out right after I finished those videos. We're going to be starting today with Final Destination Bloodlines, and also like the whole background and everything is probably going to change because I'm recording this right after I finished Bloodlines and I have not seen the other ones yet. That's for future me. If you don't want spoilers for Final Destination Bloodlines, I suggest you leave or skip this part. Well, also beforehand, I just want to say that it's really good, and I think it's a great Final Destination movie.
Only by embracing death will it pass you by. Good luck.
Yeah, I had an absolute blast watching Final Destination Bloodlines. I think it has so much really good and fun stuff going for it. It's one of my favorite movies in the franchise, and I will put it into my official Mungo's ranking list after I'm done with the review here. I said this in my original review of the franchise, but really what gets me to enjoy one of these movies is when the characters are good and enjoyable. And wouldn't you know it, this movie has good and enjoyable characters. Wow, it's almost like that's important to have in a movie. This movie follows a family, kind of the Campbell family, I think. It's confusing. Let me just get into it, okay? So Iris Campbell, I think is her last name, has a premonition of a disaster. We've been here before. It's the Skyview disaster. It's basically like a Sky Needle looking building, but in the 60s. And genuinely a lot of people die in this disaster. She basically survives, because that's how it works. And we see that she has given birth twice to two children. The brother is like the dad that we see in this movie of the Campbells. He is the one that I am fairly sure is actually Campbell. And he has gone on to have a whole family by himself. Well, not by himself, with a wife. They have 3 children themselves. But the daughter of Iris also had a family with another man, and they had 2 children. Stephanie, who is the main protagonist of this movie, and her brother Charlie. One might think that Stephanie is the premonition protagonist, as I've come to dub these characters, and that's technically kind of true because she is the protagonist and she sees a premonition, but it's not her premonition. She never has a premonition herself. She has dreams of her grandmother Iris's premonition, which is what ended up with Iris saving herself and many other people. And of the family members, I think they're all pretty good. I really like the dynamic that putting a Final Destination movie against a family has. I just think that it's a really fun, new, inventive way to do the setup, because usually it's just some fucking friends and or random strangers. But I really like the dynamic that it has, and I think all of the characters. There wasn't really a character that I disliked. There were maybe a couple that were forgotten or were a little just not utilized as well, so they don't have as much to do. So you do good with what you have, but you don't have a whole lot, so there's not much for me to ultimately say about you. But I think specifically Stephanie stands out to me, the premonition protagonist, and her brother Charlie, and her 2 cousins who are the brothers of the other family. Not the same family, but you get what I'm trying to say. I believe one of them is Eric and one of them is Bobby. Bobby and Eric have a sister. She's one of the characters that doesn't have a whole lot to do. From what I see of her, I like her. Same goes for Stephanie's dad and the Campbell mom. They just kind of get sidelined at a point because there's not really much for them to do because they're not in danger. They were not part of the blood family. So basically, Iris living has nothing to do with them living. So they're allowed to live. So they're not really in any danger. In general, I'm gonna say that there are some pretty good like twists and fake outs. I think they have a few that I was like, whoa, okay, that was kind of fun actually. And then there were also some pretty good like nods to the original movies in some ways. I don't know, they just have some fun implementations where it's not like too on the nose, like waving a shiny thing in your face, being like, remember this? Remember? Hey, you remembered this thing? Like there's a couple of things where like they're driving and then there's a log truck and the log truck doesn't really do anything, but you see the log truck and you're like, well, I fucking know the log truck, so that's a fun little thing to include. And then at one point they go to a hospital. It's called like Hope Rivers or whatever the fuck. And they're trying to remember the name of the hospital. And one of the characters is just listing off names like Sunny Rivers, Beautiful Rivers, Clear Rivers, Hope Rivers. And you're like, oh, Clear Rivers. Like the girl from the first two movies. yeah. Why am I'm sorry, I'm smiling because because I'm having fun. But yeah, the premonition, the Skyview disaster, I think looks really good. There are a few moments here and there where I don't think it's the best. Like the effects and the CGI, some individual components don't really look that great. It's still good enough. But there are a few moments where I'm like, oh, you know, I wish that looked a little bit better. But there are those odd times where like one thing happens and I'm kind of like, that specifically, for some reason, is a little too unbelievable or ridiculous for me. In this premonition, in this disaster, a little glass bead from a chandelier falls and it lands onto the glass floor of the Sky View Tower and it causes an immediate, pretty decent sized crack in the floor. It's not gonna do that, but I'm gonna sit back and just enjoy it because I'm allowed to do that. But yeah, I think the fear of it in general is great. Again, I love that we're going back to playing on real human fears that most people have. Heights is a great one. We kind of saw it with the bridge, but I actually really like this one a little bit more because I love the idea of being on a glass floor of like something really high up in the sky and you can look down below you. And that is a fear that people have, you know, like never in a million years would they go on something like that. I would. But then again, I don't think I'd survive a Final Destination movie, so maybe that's not important. So I like the fear of it. I like the glass breaking and people just falling out of the tower. There's a really good like explosion that happens and a big old fire, and we get some pretty decent fire stunts out of it. And then there's a piano. At one point the tower's like basically on its side and there's a lady up against the glass and a piano falls and splats into her and breaks the window. It's the funniest thing because up until this point there's an asshole kid in this like whole ordeal. He like escapes the tower and I'm like, oh, so the kid is actually gonna like live. Maybe that's gonna play into the rest of the movie because Iris didn't save him, so I guess maybe we'll see him as like an old man later in the movie. And then the piano fucking splatters him. It splatters this kid. And oh mama, was this the moment where I was like, oh, okay, Bloodlines, I see what you're doing. And I approve. Iris actually, she ends up saving, there's this little kid who's there because his mom is like singing at the Sky Tower or something. And she tries to save the little kid and eventually the entire tower like crumbles and breaks and they both fall. And this is how her premonition ends, is she falls onto like an impaling, kind of like the premonition guy from Final Destination 4, the bad one. See, and that was when I would usually go into like the individual deaths that people have. However, I need to address a couple of lore implications that this movie has for the greater franchise. There are some things that made me happy. There are some things that made me a little confused. And there are some things that still kind of bother me. I can't really tell what Bloodlines is exactly trying to do. It feels like they are attempting to connect the Skyview disaster to maybe some of the disasters in the franchise. They never directly do that, but it kind of feels like the goal is to be like, there were hundreds of people that were saved from the Skyview Tower and they all had families, so there were hundreds of people that Death had to go through first in order to catch back up to the Campbells and Iris and the rest of her lineage. They're maybe trying to say one of the families could have lived on to be a member from, the later movies. Based on how that works, it would pretty much have to be someone from Final Destination 5 whose family member is a lineage descent from this Skyview disaster, and I don't really think that's what happened. Their parent would have had to have died like pretty fucking recently before the events of that movie, and that never gets mentioned to my knowledge in any of the movies. I don't think that's the case. It's possible, but I don't think that's the case. But if we do see the franchise continue from here, Death's all caught up. Spoiler alert, Death has killed all of the Campbells and everyone from Skyview. So unless they do some kind of retcon, they're going to have to just do a new disaster. And that's what I want, actually, and that's what I hope. Also, this movie confirms that Bloodworth, Tony Todd, the coroner, rest in peace, Tony Todd! That Bloodworth is not Death. It confirms that pretty well, which makes me happy because I was like, that fucker's not Death. He just knows all this shit because he's in the business, But this movie does an interesting thing, and the child that Iris saved at Skyview is Bloodworth. But, he's grown up now. And I actually really like this for Bloodworth as a character because he's always known a lot about Death. I actually really like the idea that he knows about it because he was a part of it. Basically, him and Iris became friends eventually, and Iris kind of helped teach him about everything, and he would theoretically be the last person to die from the Skyview disaster because the way that Death is working is it's going down the line in order of the disaster, like usual. A little bit of a weird thing for me is that Death does not just go for the older son of Iris and then the daughter of Iris. It does the son of Iris and then all his children, and then it goes to the daughter. It makes sense enough where I'm not upset about it, but it's enough where I'm like, yeah, but also I feel like it should just be age order, son, daughter, and then all the children afterwards in order of age that they were born. But because Bloodworth would have been the last one to die at Skyview, once all the Campbells are dead, and Stephanie and her brother Charlie are dead, then it would go to him. Hypothetically. Here's the thing. I know Tony Todd is not going to return. He's dead. Rest in peace, Tony Todd. But there is a chance that Bloodworth will not die because of this. Because we never actually see him die. So there is a possibility, very slight, very tiny, minuscule, atomic even, that Bloodworth didn't die in the original Skyview disaster or was not supposed to die in the original disaster. So there's a chance. I don't think that's going to happen or have any effect on the story in the future, but I just figured I'd point that out because I like to believe that in universe, Tony Todd as Bloodworth gets to live on, spend the rest of his days enjoying life, living life. Another thing this movie does is it confirms the theories of the New Life theory from Final Destination 2 and the take someone else's life theory from Final Destination 5, because Bloodworth says that it worked. Now, do I necessarily believe that? Kind of yes, but also kind of no. I still think the kill someone, take someone else's life theory is bullshit. And I don't believe it because, once again, Peter kills Agent Block in Final Destination 5 and dies immediately after, meaning that Agent Block was supposed to die like within 2 minutes, which I think is stupid. So I'm choosing to believe that the take someone else's life theory is stupid and shouldn't exist and doesn't actually work, especially because there's no surviving members to actually like fully truly confirm that theory. However, Bloodworth does mention Kimberly. He says that Kimberly survived. So what you're telling me is there's a chance that she lived. Making the DVD choose your own adventure thing, whatever, is not canon because she lived. But the cop, he may not be safe. He might have died. Now, Bloodworth does say that it will just kind of like stop death in its tracks. Number one, Bloodworth is not all-knowing. He's been wrong before. And also, like, he doesn't have enough data to prove any of these theories, right? So, in my brain, I'm choosing to believe that the cop guy is dead because I don't like that he survives because Kimberly died and came back to life. I think that's stupid. Call me crazy, call me psycho, but I don't think that's how the theory should work. Anyway, individual death time. Let's go. So Grandma Iris is the first kill. She's the opening kill. It's a pretty good, shocking kill. She knows that she's going to die. I think she's kind of stupid. She does it so she can save Stephanie and give her a crazy woman book of all the details of how death works and whatever. So if she had just stayed in the cabin, her family would have lived a little bit longer. And I think she's only doing it because she has cancer. And so she knows she's going to die eventually. But also, just stay in the cabin and none of this would have happened. She leaves the cabin and then like a weather vane spiral thingy, it falls onto like a fire extinguisher, which goes right into the back of her head and explodes her skull, and it splatters all over Stephanie. And in that moment, I was like, we are having fun with these deaths. Maybe the piano kid was a fluke. No, they're doing it, y'all. Oh, I'm psychotic. The gore sometimes is pretty noticeably like CGI, but it never really actually brought me out of anything because it's good enough. And then Papa Campbell, the son of Iris, it's in the trailer. He gets lawnmowered. I love the whole lead up to everything, and I love that there's a theme for a lot of these deaths where glass breaking kind of signifies the start of someone dying. And here a glass breaks and the glass shard goes in a drink and it ends up on the lawn. He steps on it and it goes like right through his foot, and it's pretty good. And then, you know, he falls backward and the lawnmower gets started automatically and it just grinds his face. I like that we get a real lawnmower death as opposed to the fucking stupid one from 4 where it just flings a rock into the girl's eye. And then the eldest son of Papa Campbell is Eric. He's the tattoo guy. He has piercings. Again, one of the trailers, his nose piercing gets caught in the fan, and there's fire in the tattoo shop or whatever, and it's a fake out. And everyone's like, wait, you were supposed to die next. Especially Stephanie, because she's the only one kind of going with this theory at this point. Yeah, it turns out he was not Papa Campbell's biological son. It's honestly a really funny, really great moment that I quite enjoyed. And then while they're talking to Eric, the daughter Julia, who's the second oldest, is just about to go jogging, and Stephanie points out this ridiculous way that death could kill Eric. This entire time, it's such a great scene because we see all the way down the street and we see a garbage truck coming, and I'm like, please do a garbage truck death. I beg of you, Final Destination. I would love that so much. And they fucking do it. And it happens exactly the way Stephanie said. Julia gets a soccer ball in her head. It's like way back in the distance. She gets knocked into a trash can upside down right as the truck is picking up the can and dumping it in the back. So she gets dumped into the back of the garbage truck. Stephanie's trying to climb up to the top and help Julia out. And I keep thinking that they're actually going to save Julia and that this is all just some ploy, some, you know, red herring to get Eric run over by the garbage truck or something. But then Julia's whole head gets fucking squashed like, and I think it's the most gruesome death in the movie, and had a I had the biggest grin on my face. I think I was just watching in awe. I was amazed by it. So then it's time for Bobby, and Bobby has a peanut allergy, and they go to the hospital to find Bloodworth. This is where they learn about the two theories: take someone else's life or die temporarily. Stephanie's family, her trilogy, are all kind of like, what are we gonna do? Like, we're fucked. We can't do that. And meanwhile, Eric and Bobby are like, okay, we're not gonna kill someone else. So, Bobby, you're gonna have to die. So the way they decide to kill Bobby is to have him eat peanuts. That is the fucking worst way to do it. Eric breaks a vending machine to get peanut butter cups. Good choice, Bobby. And I was really hoping for a classic vending machine kill, because that's like the statistic that people bring up is, how many people die from vending machines every year, and then it's like more than sharks or something. But they're in an MRI room. It's like the laser eye from 5, where the machine gets set off and it's going to stupid catastrophic levels of magnetism, and this just starts pulling everything toward it. So Eric has a bunch of piercings. So we see the piercings get fucking ripped out of his ears and pulled toward the machine and just fly and stick to it. It's like ears, his nose, his nipples, and then he has a penis piercing as well, so that happens. Sometimes the humor doesn't work for me in this movie. Sometimes it's a little too Hollywood, if that makes sense. That's another one of my gripes. I think they lean on comedy a little bit too much. It's still pretty good. And because Eric had brought a wheelchair in for Bobby, the wheelchair gets pulled and takes Eric with him, and Eric gets suctioned up against the MRI machine. Here's the whole of the MRI. Here's fucking Eric. He's getting sucked into it because the wheelchair is getting sucked into it behind him. And we see his torso just stretch out as like the metal parts from the wheelchair just pierce through his skin. And it's incredible once again. Meanwhile, Bobby's over on the floor in anaphylactic shock. It is somehow the most disturbing thing happening. It's a very real moment as compared to like this very over-the-top MRI thing. I'm like, oh, but his face is getting all puffy and red and he can't breathe properly. And he goes over to get the EpiPen that Bobby or Eric was holding. Eric's dead. He goes to grab it, and then a nurse opens the door because stuff is flying toward the MRI from even outside the room. The spiral thing from the vending machine that holds the items comes out, goes right into Bobby's head, and just starts like spinning as it goes deeper into his brain. And ooh, buddy, it's another great one. And then, it's time for the last main trilogy alive. Basically, Stephanie's mom is deciding to make like a heroic sacrifice and go to Iris's cabin and just live the rest of her life there. So her children get to have a chance to live, because unless she dies, they can't die. There are some genuinely good, like, heartfelt moments in this movie. This is one of them. So they go to the cabin, Iris's cabin. It reminds me of the end of Final Destination 1 with all the electric shit and just a house going haywire and everything, whatever. The mom goes to get into the cabin. The cabin explodes. Her and the brother get thrown back while Stephanie is stuck. Her seatbelt's broken in the RV, and she's now going to drown because there's like a little pond or whatever. The mom has some pretty good burn effects going on, but then just like an electric pole or whatever falls on top of her. And this is the lamest death in the movie. Like, we've seen it before, but better, with the McKinley sign and McKinley, and we've seen it with the glass pane. But then Charlie goes to try and save Stephanie and pull her out. She does kind of drown. I mean, she does drown. So he pulls her out and he gives her like CPR, brings her back. That's it, they live. Except later, when Charlie is going to prom and pick up his girlfriend's dad is a doctor, and the doctor basically is like, so you're a real lifesaver, huh? And he's like, technically, she didn't die. Like, her heart didn't stop. She was just unconscious. Like, if you were able to bring her back, her heart didn't stop, so. Which is bullshit, by the way. Like, come on. Her heart could have stopped. So I get that it didn't, but it very well could have, and this doctor wouldn't fucking know that. And then a train derails and comes running at them, like careening towards them, and they outrun it, but there's logs on it, and the logs bounce off and then splatter each of the kids. And this one, it's fine. I like that Stephanie's original like drowning is very reminiscent of Kimberly, and I like there's an aspect to it where there's a penny. The whole thing is the penny started the Skyview disaster, and there's a penny because of a whole series of events. Again, death, just having fun, causes the train to derail. The train doesn't look great as it's like crashing through the street and houses and whatnot. So they're running away from, like, doesn't look good. And then the logs killing them, I'm like, that was one where I was like, okay, that's a bit too on the nose for me. I'm like, I get what you're doing, and like maybe it's kind of fun because Kimberly originally was supposed to die because of a log disaster, because Stephanie is basically Kimberly in this movie. The logs getting her is kind of, I don't know, it's just not the best to me. I don't think it's terrible. I would have preferred something different, I think. And then a few bonus things. We see earlier in the movie that Eric is playing Mortal Kombat 1. I love Mortal Kombat, so that made me happy to see. Also, there is a pet tortoise that the Campbells have. It just made me really happy because I love turtles and I love tortoises, and he's just a little fucking guy and he's adorable, and I hope he gets to live a real happy life. Even though most of the owners that would look after him are dead. It's just the aunt and the biological father of Stephanie left. And then, of course, I'm just so glad that Tony Todd got to do one more of these movies. And I genuinely teared up in the theaters. He has a very nice way to exit both the franchise and also just movies in general. And it was truly a beautiful scene, and I liked it a whole lot. Maybe this is a terrible fucking boomer take to have, but don't go on your fucking phones in a movie theater. You paid how much money to be here, and you can't even sit for like an hour and a half without looking at your phone? I know we all have addictions to the things. I fucking do, but I can set it aside for one fucking movie and not distract everyone else in the theater with it. I think it especially pissed me off because there's one girl in front of me that was like on her phone during Tony Todd's one fucking scene in the movie, and I was like, come on, dude. I hope to God you don't know who Tony Todd is, and that you don't know that he passed away, because that is like the fucking worst thing to do. Like, any other time during the movie would have been a better time. Specifically during his scene was just so disrespectful to me, and it made me so vehemently angry, and I almost yelled at her and be like, get the fuck off your phone, dude. This is Tony Todd we're talking about. Anyway, my anger aside, I'm doing great. In order to rank things, I'm going to put the Skyview disaster above the subway disaster from the end of Final Destination 3. In fact, I might put it above Devil's Flight. I'm not entirely sure. I'll leave that up for editor Ryan. And then as for the movies ranking, where does Bloodlines fit in? I'm going to put it in third place. A lot of people are saying this is their favorite, and I'm totally fine with that. I get why this would be your favorite. It's a really good movie. I just have such a love for the first two films. I don't know, it'd be hard for anything to top those two in my brain, but I do think that this is a great movie, and it deserves to be top 3. So it gets that third place spot. I'm back. It wasn't that long because it's in the same video, so, whatever. Just behind the scenes, a little peek. I realized after recording the Final Destination Bloodlines segment that I went for way too long, so I'm going to try and keep this a little bit shorter. I'm talking about Mission Impossible Final Reckoning.
I need you to trust me. One last time.
I absolutely had a blast while watching Final Reckoning. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I did Final Destination, and I don't think that it was like my favorite Mission Impossible movie. However, I will say that I thought it was pretty good. Even more characters came back in this one than I was expecting there to. The cop duo, I kind of figured they wouldn't really be that important, but they were there. And even the guy from Mission Impossible 1, the Black Vault guy that they drugged and made him lose his job, he came back, and I was like, whoa! I'm gonna talk about not all of the characters because some of them are, you know, I was right in my prediction that either Benji or Luther would die. It was Luther. I'm upset about it. It made me cry. I'm hoping that if they make another Mission Impossible movie, Tom Cruise will not be in it. And the reason why I'm saying that, number one, he doesn't need to anymore, and they wrapped up his story pretty fine. But number two, I don't want Ving Rhames to be in less Mission Impossible movies than Tom Cruise. Currently, they are tied, meaning they've been in every movie, and I would like to keep it that way. I do like Luther in this movie. I think he does a good job. I appreciate that he kind of went out in a self-sacrifice type of way. Like, it was a little weird because they're like, oh, he's sick or he has cancer or something, and he's already dying. So maybe that'll soften the blow. So yeah, Luther dies and I'm sad about it, but he delivers like what is essentially the final monologue of the movie, and yeah, that got me. It was pretty beautiful. Benji is here. What's her name? The new girl from Dead Reckoning. They both return. They're both pretty good. The problem is this movie has a bit of too much syndrome going for it, so most of the characters don't really get a lot. Like, Kittredge returns. Truly, I don't think Kittredge does really anything. He makes sure that the final action sequence on the planes happen. That's all. Before I totally wrap up the character section, because there's like a couple things that I need to put together more, but I also need to combine it with another thought that I have, which is this movie played on a lot of nostalgia. One of the problems I had is that they continued to show like flashbacks from previous movies. It kind of disrupts the pacing a little bit. One of the things is that they reference a bunch of past villains. It's like a very short rapid fire thing. But when they do that, I go, oh, look at all those villains that I like and remember. And then there's Gabriel still, and I'm like, I don't give a flying hootenanny about this motherfucker. I don't know, I just don't, I never enjoyed Gabriel as a bad guy. The entity is threatening still. It is technically the main villain. However, past a certain point in the movie, the entity doesn't actually do anything. It basically just becomes a Pandora's box moment where it's unleashed, you gotta put it back somehow or else nuclear devastation will occur. And then the last character, which was just kind of strange, and I appreciated it in like exactly one moment in the movie. One of the cops of the cop duo from Dead Reckoning, the white man, I don't remember his name, except I do, because his name is Jim Phelps. Yeah, Jim Phelps was that guy's father, so he is like Jim Phelps Jr. or something. I don't know why they did that. Really, all it does is, this is the one moment I enjoyed it, is at the very end of the movie, it kind of gives Ethan like a full-on conclusion to what feels like the series as a whole, because he gets to make up with Jim Phelps Jr., which is kind of like a send-off to Ethan, because, you know, Jim Phelps Sr. was the whole big thing of the first movie. But they make so many callbacks. For instance, remember the rabbit's foot from Mission Impossible, was it 3 maybe? And remember how the movie never told us what the flip that was, and you're just like, okay, yeah, I'm here because I want to see Ethan save his wife or whatever. Basically, it turns out the truth come out. Rabbit's Foot is the entity, I guess, somehow. It was some extreme code that ends up evolving into the entity, or maybe it always was the entity. It's really hard to tell, and it kind of makes it just a way for them to say, actually, the entity is only free because Ethan stole it to save his wife. So technically, this is all Ethan's fault. Sure, I guess. Why not? Like, I guess a couple more shout outs I have. Angela Bassett as the president is pretty good. For some reason, Nick Offerman is here, and he does nothing. He dies, and I'm like, okay. Paris returns. I really like Paris again. Again, she doesn't have a whole lot to do because most of the characters don't. I guess the next thing I'll talk about is just the general vibes and like the pacing and the plot and whatever. The plot itself, I think, is fairly decent. Again, it's basically just trying to close Pandora's box, which is the entity. The problem comes where they keep doing these callback things, especially the opening of the movie, and they're cutting from perspective to perspective. I'm able to follow it because I rewatched the entire franchise before this movie, basically, right? However, if I hadn't done that, I feel like I would be very confused. They're trying to do it so people aren't confused and that they are caught up. It reads as just a big jumbled mess of stuff. The movie gets better over time. I think the first section, apart from like the emotional Luther segment, is really just not that great. So honestly, the first part of the movie kind of drags it down a little. Another thing that I noticed, I'm trying to gauge like how much was intentional and how much was a failed intent. This movie is kind of fucking dark. And I mean that literally, in that like it's visually dark. It's kind of hard to see things a lot of the time. Some of it is a stylistic choice. However, I'm not sure that it works out because there's a lot of stuff where I'm like, I want to see what they're doing, but I can't really figure out what's happening. Like, really, the only time you're kind of able to see things well is the plane action sequence. That, to me, I was like, whoa, sunlight, that's fucking crazy. I've never seen that before. And then the action sequences, which I don't even really remember all of them, and I just saw the movie. Really, there are like two that stick out in my brain. Most of this movie is just like characters and plot. Again, kind of a mess because there's a little bit too much. There's the submarine. It's a whole sequence, and I think all of it is really cool. This entire segment made me feel like I was in like a horror movie or something, and you know I love that. I love the sound design. I love that they're kind of going back to some of the original stuff where they're not afraid to be more quiet, and like there's a section where he's in the submarine and like all of the missiles are loose and being flung about, and it's just really cool. And like the fact that the set's moving around and spinning around, I think is great, and it was very fun. And while all of this is happening, Benji, Paris, the fucking new girl, and the other cop guy, the black guy, they have to send Ethan the coordinates to the submarine basically, and there's like a gunfight and a fire, and it's fairly fun. It's fairly okay. And then the final action set piece is the airplane stunt. Oh, incredible. Absolutely great. Tom Cruise, as weird as you fucking are, my guy, you give us the goods in that department, so I appreciate it. Genuinely, there's some fucking shit going on that I was like, whoa! How the hell are they doing that? That's awesome. Yeah, I thought the two main action sequences were really good. I genuinely don't really remember much else. I feel like if there was, I would be remembering it. I don't think there was much else in terms of spy or action stuff. And this really felt like they were just trying to like finish off the franchise, maybe more specifically Ethan Hunt's involvement, but also they do have the Pandora's box still. They closed it in that they trapped the entity in like a little thing, and then they give it to Ethan. The movie ends with kind of like a reprise of the more classic Mission Impossible theme, which again, I'm an emotional person, and just like music stuff like that and reprises really get me. So when that came back, I was like, Oh, please. Oh, God. So they basically have Pandora's box, and so I'm kind of curious, if they do continue with the franchise, are they going to open the box again and release the entity, or is it just going to be a thing where Ethan uses it in between movies and is able to help restore whatever the entity destroyed? Anyway, I really enjoyed Final Reckoning. I don't think it's like a perfect movie. I don't think it's perfect in terms of like a Mission Impossible movie. If you want like a conclusion to the franchise, I think that this will satisfy you. If you are in it for like those major like action set pieces, I think you will have a fun time with that as well. And if you like the characters, I think for the most part, you'll get something out of it that is good and beneficial. To include Final Reckoning in my rankings, however, I am going to put it in 4th place, right behind Ghost Protocol and after Mission Impossible Fallout. So sandwiched right in between those two. I just don't think it was cohesive enough, and it had some weird stuff going on that kind of was like not great, and it had too much going on at times, so it didn't fully land, but I still quite enjoyed it, and I like what it offers in terms of like a conclusion. If they want to continue the franchise with a new lead, go ahead. But I think it's time to retire Ethan Hunt. Maybe give him a cameo to be like, back in my day, whatever. Maybe he trains someone. I don't know. Either way, I think it's time for Tom Cruise to stop. Yeah, anyway, thanks, and next movie, I guess. Welcome to the next movie review. This time I'm gonna be talking about Jurassic World Rebirth. Remember when I did all the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World movies? Yeah, me too. I really liked that one.
We put ourselves in a place where we don't belong. Survival is a long shot.
That's kind of our specialty.
Just to start and get my general, thoughts and feelings out on this movie, I thought it was fine. I thought it was fun. Does that mean it's a good one? Not necessarily. I think that when they do the dinosaur stuff, it's pretty fun. The rest of the movie, though, I'm honestly not that big of a fan. There are 2 problems that I noticed right off the bat. Number 1, there's a shit ton of product placement. And I'm not saying that the other movies haven't also had some pretty bad product placement, but I think that this is the worst offender in the entire franchise, which is honestly saying a lot because Jurassic World, the first one, was pretty bad. Every 2 minutes in the beginning of the movie, there was some new thing like, wibbity wobbity wobbity woobity, I'm gonna put a spell on you and make you want to buy Snickers or M&Ms or fucking potato chips or a Heineken or some shit. And I'm like, dog, I want to watch fucking dinosaurs. Give me dinosaurs. Because the other problem that I noticed right away is that it took fucking forever to get to anything of substance. This is probably a great over-exaggeration, but frankly, it doesn't matter because this is what it felt like to me, and if it felt like this, that's a bad thing. It felt like the first 30 minutes of the movie were fucking nothing. It was just leading up until they get to the island. And let me be clear, I also didn't really like most of the characters. I only watched, I think, the first trailer that released for the movie, so I didn't know much about it. I didn't know there was gonna be a whole other group of characters. I had no idea they were going to be in this movie, and they were the ones that I actually cared about to any degree. The actual main cast with the big stars like Scarlett Johansson and that guy that everyone is hot for, I didn't give a shit at all. Frankly, I kind of thought it felt like the acting was just phoned in a little bit. It didn't feel good. I didn't care about the characters because they weren't good. Scarlett Johansson character is supposed to have this whole arc and development where she actually starts to listen to the doctor guy and do things for the greater good as opposed to getting a paycheck. That does happen by the end of the movie, but it doesn't feel good. Like it doesn't actually have an enjoyable payout. It's just kind of, now that like it's official that I would not get paid because everyone is dead. Well, what do you think? How do you think I should? What you think? If I could give this and people would be safer because of it? And I didn't care for any of the main cast except for maybe Mahershala Ali's character, and the only reason I care about him is because I love him from Moonlight, and his character very slightly and vaguely reminded me of that character. But the other family was great. I loved them. The two daughters, the dad, and the daughter's boyfriend. I thought they were wonderful. I will say that the boyfriend at first was a little confusing to me because it felt like it was just gonna be one of those very annoying Hollywood humor characters. And then it ended up just kind of being that he's a little weird and a little goofy, and I ended up liking him quite a bit. So I was happy with it, and I liked all of their stuff. The other group, no, this movie was kind of filled with like annoying nostalgia bait references. And what I mean by that is I'm okay if you play with my nostalgia some, right? If you show some iconic little things that are reminiscent of past films, that's fine. But it felt like they were trying a little too hard. Like, you have the shot, it's in the trailer, of them at like the museum or whatever, of the T-Rex skeleton with the Jurassic Park banner or whatever falling down like from the end of the original movie, and I was like, what the fuck are we doing here? It doesn't feel natural or good. I just look at that and I go, yeah, I get what you're trying to do. Frankly, I don't love it. I also have a gripe with some of these newer movies where they use the Jurassic Park theme music, you know, the one, the da 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 da, that theme. They use that so often and so frequently at moments in the movie where it shouldn't be played. The whole point of the theme is that it's supposed to evoke this sense of wonder, this sense of awe. And I think there was maybe one time out of, I don't know, like what felt like 15 or 20 that they actually put it in a good spot for the movie. Other times it was just like, we're gonna play the music as like you show the characters on a fucking boat. I'm like, huh? You want to show me a beautiful landscape of some dinosaurs? Absolutely. But if you're just gonna start playing it over random shit, it kind of bothered me. But yeah, fucking shocker. The best parts of the movie are the dinosaur segments. I don't know what to tell you. If you're going into one of these movies outside of like the original and maybe the original trilogy, expecting good bits of the movie to include the character moments, I would turn down your expectations. But I genuinely thought the dinosaur moments were pretty good. I don't think there were really many practical puppets or animatronics used at all. I could be wrong. I didn't notice them when watching the movie though. Sometimes I did notice that the dinosaurs looked a little not fully good or correct. I'm just gonna go over the dinosaur scenes that I like, because in the previous Jurassic video that I did, I listed off all the like iconic moments. This one I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna list off like the dinosaur scenes because I like those. So the Mosasaurus and the Spinosaurus like little boat scenes were pretty good. I really liked them. I like seeing them work together, and I like seeing them chomp some people and fuck around with a boat. The Titanosaurus group in like the big field is beautiful and gorgeous. Like, it's weird because you have a fucking D-Rex big mama mutant creature in this movie, and yet when the Titanosauruses were like kissing and cuddling each other, I was like, I don't know if that's right. And this was the one good use of the Jurassic Park theme. And then my favorite segment of the movie is the T-Rex raft segment. Oh, I can't tell you how much I miss Rexy, my girl, but you give me a T-Rex and I'm a happy fella. First of all, it starts with the Rex snoozing. I was with my friends, so I turned to my friend and I went, I definitely got tears in my eyes because it was just so beautiful and I loved it. And then just seeing the Rex go to town, chasing after these folks on a boat, on a little raft. Just A tier. The only part that I didn't love about this entire segment is when the girl inflates the raft and it just kind of vroom, and then stands there perfectly blocking the view, which would not happen at all. And then it goes dunk and falls into the water and the T-Rex is missing. I'm like, that's not how physics work, but okay. The Quetzalcoatlus is a wonderful scene as well. The big bird, the big mama bird. I put this in my notes because I didn't know how else to put it. They have an incredible, insane face card in this movie. And I kind of just threw up saying that. There's a point where it kind of like turns to look at a character and I'm like, am I being fucking mogged by a fucking bird dinosaur right now? What's happening? Oh, and the Quetzalcoatlus like chomps a guy. She lifts him over a cliff, which is how we are revealed that the guy has died. And then she like chomps him and like the serrated beak makes a bloody mess of him. And it was gruesome in a beautiful way. And then I gotta talk about the D-Rex, Big Mama, as my friend and I call her. My friend is a massive fan of the D-Rex, and I am also a pretty big fan as well. But I feel like they did a pretty good job with her. I like her design for the most part, although I can definitely tell the design team was like, hey, what if we made a xenomorph and a dinosaur hybrid? She could have been a little more utilized, I think, in more interesting ways. The best part is when there's a bunch of fog and she grabs like a helicopter out from the air and you see like the helicopter just come out through the fog as she grabs it. My main disappointment though is that the D-Rex kills the main bad guy. Good. Hip hip hooray. But the problem is they really needed to show more. I hate it when these movies are like, here's this terrible asshole character that was going to let a girl die on a boat. What if we just like don't show any of him dying at all? But I want to see this motherfucker get ripped to shreds. And like it's a bit of a callback because his arm falls and it's like grabbing a briefcase thing. It's like the Samuel L. Jackson arm from the first movie. Again, another decent callback, but at the same time I'm like, yeah, but I want to see this fucker get fucked up. And then just to end my notes on the movie before I put it in the ranking, I have a couple very specific notes. Why did they give us another doctor named Henry? That felt really weird to me. Did you name another character Dr. Henry blank? What the fuck? That's so weird. Why would you do that? The beginning of the movie, this is again one of the only parts I liked in the beginning of the movie. There is a Brachiosaurus that has escaped like a zoo in New York City. I actually kind of liked it because, like I've said for the past movies, the Brachiosaurus has become like a mascot of sorts of dinosaurs for the human world. The Brachiosaurus has always been like this awe-inspiring, gentle, beautiful creature. And in the beginning of this movie, we see that the Brachiosaurus is just a nuisance. They're a traffic block. That like honestly kind of hit me because I know the past of these movies. It's kind of them saying people have stopped caring about dinosaurs. They've given up on them. They don't find them awe-inspiring. They find them to be a delay in their morning commute. And then another note that I have is that it feels weird to me that the original World trilogy was basically setting up, we're gonna put dinosaurs everywhere. Oh, they're all over the world. And then this movie, they're like, hey, so actually they're all dying off. There are very few left. So you're basically just diminishing the entire arc of the World trilogy. And then that's all. So it's time for me to place Jurassic World Rebirth in my overall rankings for these movies. I'm going to put it in 4th place, which is actually either 4th best or 4th worst. It's dead center in the list. I liked it more than Jurassic World, but I did not like it as much as Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. That's where it sits. Anyway, it's time for me to talk about the next movie. Alright, fuckers, welcome to what will probably be the last movie that I talk about in this video. Yeah, we're at the end. So that means I have to talk about I Know What You Did Last Summer, the new one from 2025, this year.
Now, feel that love entering your body and emanating out from your chest.
Just to start, I truly have to say that I have a lot of mixed feelings about this one, but I don't know how much I actually want to fully get into all of it, but I will, because that's why you're here probably, I assume, or something. This has some good moments, some really bad moments, and overall, I think I enjoyed it, but it kind of gave me a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm not sure if I actually really like it that much. There are definitely some weird choices done in this movie, like some of the actual shots are a little weird, some of the like music mixing is strange, like they'll just kind of mix things in and out weirdly, and they also make the really strange decision to give the killer very heavy, thick, like boot thuds, like footsteps. And to me, when I was watching this movie, I was like, is a fucking T-Rex coming? Like, what the hell is happening right now? Why are your footsteps so fucking loud? They should not be this loud. I also think that it's funny because this is the first movie that I've ever gone to where I noticed that the people actually left the theater and did not come back. A lot of the movie was kind of boring. I enjoyed it enough to not leave. I actually enjoy some of the music choices, like the songs that they pick really helped evoke the vibe of what this movie should be, and it helped like weirdly reminisce on the original movie in a way that I think really worked. And I thought the casting was also pretty damn great. Like each of the main characters I think did a great job. The main four, there's actually five, but the main four, I don't know how they did it. They found people that look like the original four, and I don't know how they did that because they don't look exactly like the original four, but they all have qualities about them where I'm like, how the fuck did you find people that look like them, and why are they all good? And I also think a lot of the twists are pretty good in this movie. Certain twists they have, like the order that certain characters die in is surprising. I genuinely didn't know what order the characters were going to die in, or who was going to die for that matter. They like switched up the formula, and they knew that people would probably understand the original movie, and so they kind of did things a little bit differently here in a way that I really liked because it threw me off and I wasn't expecting it. Another twist that they do is they kind of flip the inciting incident on its head. In the first movie, the kids hit a guy while driving. In this movie, a guy almost hits them while they're standing into the middle of the road, and he goes off the cliff, basically. It's flipped on its head in a way that I liked it because I wasn't expecting it, and I went, oh, you know what, actually props. That's an interesting way to do it. But at the same time, I was like, well, I don't know if the stakes are as high in this one. Yes, you are definitely at fault. But one guy says, that's manslaughter. I'm like, is it though? And similarly, it's just one guy that's in the road. The rest of them were not there at all for it. Could have just blamed the one dude. And there's a lot of things that bring me back to the original movie, either for better or for worse. In this movie, we are once again at Southport, thank Christ. But after the disaster that was I'll Always Know, thank you for bringing back Southport. I do like Southport in this movie. It's kind of an updated take on it. Basically, Southport has gotten an upgrade where they're more of like a tourist resort type of place, and I like that about it. And I like that it feels to me like a mix of I know and I still know. The problem that I have though is that none of the scenes or the locations ever feel connected enough or cohesive enough to me. The original two movies did a really good job, I think, of making it feel like one place. This movie, they kind of jump jump all over the place, and sometimes it just doesn't feel like it's one actual solid place. It feels more like an idea of a place than a real place that would actually exist. And then there are just various really stupid whack-a-job nods to the original that are purely nostalgia shit. First of all, in the trailer, when Jennifer Love Hewitt's like asked the girl, I just need you to tell me one thing.
What did you do last summer?
That's fucking lame. Get that out of here. There's a scene where a guy goes to like one of the spa rooms or whatever, and he leaves the writing on the wall like "You're next" or something, like from the shower scene at the end of the first movie. So major spoilers. If you don't want to be spoiled for the biggest fuck ass twist of this movie, be prepared, okay? One of the killers is going to kill Jennifer Love Hewitt. She does the line where she goes, "What are you waiting for? Huh? What are you waiting for?" And it's fucking, it's really bad, actually. Yeah, it's genuinely pretty awful and not good at all. Oh, and also there's a fuck ass dream sequence that one of the girls has, and it's only so that we can get Sarah Michelle Gellar cameo. I have a love-hate relationship with it because on one hand, thank you, Sarah Michelle Gellar. I really appreciate you being in this movie. On the other hand, this is so fucking stupid. Oh my god. The survivors end up being the girls, the girlies, which is what I was hoping for, frankly. I was really hoping we would get a nice survivor group of my girls. So there are 3 girls because there's 5 characters. One of the girls who is kind of forced into the group in the beginning of the movie ends up being the killer. So yeah, it's a whole, okay, so we're just gonna do the whole Scream thing now. Got it. Cool. So yeah, the girl reveals herself to be the killer. And again, once again, I give her props. I think her acting is great. I really liked her character in this movie. Her motivation, a little goofy, but it's fine. And then there are 2 killers once again. So Ray is the other killer. You know, Freddie Prinze Jr., Ray from the original movies.
This isn't the first time there's been violence like this in Southport.
I hate that because it feels like a disgrace to his character. I genuinely cannot believe that Ray would end up being a killer, that he would go a little psycho, that he would kill a bunch of people. I don't think it's a good twist. It feels like a genuine disgrace to the first 2 movies and what his character was in those movies. That is the main primary reason why I don't like this movie that much. As a movie, it's fine, but in this franchise, you just ruined Ray. I was already upset because they did the whole thing where it's like, in between movies, Ray and Julie, which is Jennifer Love Hewitt's character if you don't remember, they broke up and they are no longer friends even. And I will say, I genuinely give the movie credit for making Ray a killer for a couple of reasons. One is that it's genuinely shocking. Very early on in the movie, the podcast girl gets killed and she takes off the killer, you know, the slicker rain fisher hat, whatever it's called, and she recognizes the person. When she recognized the killer, I said, oh, so that means that the killer is either someone from the original movie, because she did all the research, she was covering all this stuff, so she would recognize someone from the original movie, or it was one of the few people that she met in Southport. And by few, I mean very few. She didn't even meet all of the like main group of characters in this movie. So in the back of my mind, I was always like, Ray? But I was still like, no, they wouldn't fucking make Ray a killer. What are they, crazy? Even though I fucking knew that it probably had to be Ray, my brain said there's no no fucking way. So it was genuinely shocking to me that it was, in fact, Rey. And the other reason I give them credit for this decision, even though I think it's terrible and stupid, is that, to my knowledge, this is the first, like, legacy sequel, requel, whatever term you want to use for this type of horror movie. This is the first one where they make a legacy character be the bad guy. Do I think it works? No, I don't believe Rey would do that. I don't think it's taking Rey's character in good faith. But I give them credit because I think this is the first time a movie has done that, to my knowledge. And then I guess the last thing I'll talk about is that I'm glad that I Still Know is canon. There's a mid-credit scene, if you didn't know, where Julie ends up going to what's her name, her college roommate's house. I would be interested in seeing another sequel, which is what they're setting up with Julie going to the roommate's house. Frankly, I don't think it's gonna happen because I don't think this movie is going to do well enough for that to happen, but I do like the idea of the story continuing. Anyway, I guess I gotta get to the rankings. Alright, so there are now officially 4 movies in the I Know, I Still Know, I'll Always Know, I Still Know Again, movies. So there are 4 of them. My placement for this movie is 3rd place. I'll Always Know is still an absolute dog shit movie that I hate. This movie has some really good moments. I didn't mention this, but the kills are pretty good. I think they're more unique and fun. So there are some great moments. I like the main characters. I like the surviving final girls. I like this movie for a lot of things, but truly the whole Rey thing really pisses me off. So it's gonna go in 3rd place. Anyway, I have to actually end this video now. I hope you guys enjoyed me kind of doing this style of video where I cover the franchises before the new one comes out, and then I do like a recap video where I talk about all of the new ones that came out. I appreciate you joining in, like genuinely. I really do appreciate that. What were your thoughts on any of these movies? Did you watch any of them? How would you rank them in their franchises respectively? And in case you were curious, I did die at the end of the Final Destination video that I did. That was actually just a premonition, so that's not real. I stopped it. So luckily for the end of this video, again, you know, I hope you enjoyed.